And take your questions down to like that telescopic brevity, so you're just right to the point, so we can get a few of them in. So, you got a question for me? Oh, good. We can go home. No, actually, we got a couple of mic runners. We got Marty right here, and got a question. Who has a question? I have a question. Okay, there. And Steve.
Well, how do we manage the onslaught of the media in our lives in the year 2017?
You turn it off. Yep. And that's the way you handle the onslaught of any of the negativity that is out there. And I think it helps to be aware of what's going on if that's important to you. But what you want to do is be careful that you don't allow it to just be your truth. A good friend of our movement is Dr. Michael Beckwith, and he says the headlines are our prayer requests. And so, when you get the negativity that's going on out there, you can say, interesting, but you know what? I need to know the truth about this situation. That truly what is unfolding is moving us to a world that works for everyone. It is a place where peace does prevail, and that I'm going to choose to hear some of the things that are taking place on the factual level upon the planet, but I don't need to accept the editorials that are coming from that media, because the news media, the major media outlets for our news are owned, I think it's by 5 or 6 corporations, and that pretty much controls the collective think of our nation, and that's a corporate level, and so. The information that comes is the information that comes, but how it's ingested and interpreted, be the one who is responsible for the intake of that. So it rests in a place not how you're being fed, but rather how Spirit wants you to perceive it and see it. And so if there's disturbing information that is there, what I'd like to do is just to know that the truth, that Spirit is prevailing and that it is moving us to a higher place. So one of the best things you can do is turn off that and just and be open to the Spirit. And what it really takes is more and more people holding the light and that higher consciousness and allowing the vibration of God's prevailing here in our nation and upon this earth at this time. So, good question. Thank you. Yeah. Who wants to run to the back of the sanctuary? Steve, it's your side, in the back. Yeah, Steve, amazing healing, this guy. He was taken down on a bike, knocked unconscious, didn't get rolled over by a car, and has been healing up with busted shoulders, broken wrists and hands and thumbs, and we just know you can continue to heal gracefully. So, glad you're here. All right. Stand up, please. So.
How do you account for when bad things happen to good people? I mean, I'm talking about, diseases that fatal and those happenings.
Uh-huh. So how do you account for when bad things happen to good people? Good question. There was a book by that title, and absolutely did not agree with his perspective on it, which is, well, things just happen. And I don't think things just happen. I think things happen justly. And so our consciousness is... I don't believe ever, trying to pull in the bad things, the negative things, or the things for the body that is destroying. But I do think that we do play a part in that. And there are some things that unfold in our world with the body or with the planet or things that just part of a collective wave or a planetary wave. The Earth is moving, or the body is many trips around the sun begins to take its toll. And so those kind of things can appear through race consciousness, but we're always at a place of choice and say, I do not need to be part of this law of averages. I do not need to be part of this experience. And so if there is something that happens in my world, once again, it comes back to here is where my prayer request it's a prayer request is where my prayers are needed. It is a time for me to say, what is it that I need to learn from this in this moment? How am I involved in creating that? Because things are happening, and we can get caught up in that collective wave, the collective fear, like the ocean. When a wave is coming, it's just going to come down on everybody, whether you're talking the national level or a global level. But also within surfing, there's something called duck diving. So when the wave is sucking everything into it and it's going to come crashing down, that surfer, the one who's out there in the water, has the opportunity to do the duck dive, which is to take your board or dive deeper than the suction of that's getting everything that's getting pulled into it. But it takes a conscious intention to do that. And sometimes when things are going on a collective level or a planetary level, you have to decide that this is not going to be my experience. I do not need to buy into the fear. I do not need to buy into the sickness, the plague, the headlines, or whatever it is. I'm going to choose to dive a little bit deeper than this massive suction of bad that could happen. And so on a race consciousness level, and when we talk about race consciousness or collective consciousness, we're talking about the sum total of the majority of people that have that energetic that seems to be the prevailing one. I do not need to be part of that, but I need to exercise my choice to not do that. And at that personal level, when something goes on in my world, I use that as, what do I need to know here? What kind of wake-up call do I need? Yes, this doesn't feel good, it looks bad, there's pain, there's aches, and all those kinds of things that could be labeled to that, but there's also a gift here. There's also something for me to know. And so I use those so-called bad experiences as an opportunity to check in with Spirit, to pick up the phone and say, okay, what's going on here, God? What is it that I need to know in this moment from this kind of experience? Because I am refusing to continue down this path. And then this is what the doctor says, or this is what the financial economy says, or this is what the realtor says, or this is what the car accident, whatever that so-called bad is an opportunity for me to know that I am greater than that experience, because there is not God and something else. There is not God and me, and there is not God and bad. There is only Spirit here. And so what I need to do is allow that opportunity for me to dig a little bit deeper, to do that duck dive to a deeper place and connect with the absolute source and say, okay, what is it that I need to know? And with Spirit, all things are possible. And sometimes the possibilities of the unfoldment may look different than what I want to. I've worked with a number of people that have had disease within their body that looked really not like it was a good prognosis. And I've seen them beat it, but I've also seen those that have had that be the opportunity for them to step off this dimension or this plane or this vibration and consider that also a perfect healing. That, stepping free of the body and its challenges, sometimes life is done, and, we need some kind of experience to help us out of the body sometimes. So when do bad things just happen to us? I don't think so. I think somehow we are involved either consciously or unconsciously, choosing or not choosing. We're either, as Ernest Holmes will say, we're either attracting or repelling based upon our consciousness. So bad things do happen. We can label it that because it's not a good experience. But that's not the end of the story. So thank you for that question. Mm-hmm. Yes, who else? Questions from this side of the room. Yeah, Jim.
You've spoken about it before. Can you speak again to the idea of the fact that kind of the universe, we have our curriculum in life, and whatever happens, it kind of dovetails with what you were just saying, I guess, a little bit. But like for me, I feel when something happens, even if it's bad or whatever, I just try to chalk it up to, hey, you know what? That's my life curriculum. What can I get out of this? Butterworth talks about projects that each of us, if things are not going well, then don't label it as a problem, label it as a project. I don't know if those two fit.
Okay, so your soul curriculum, absolutely, I believe that we come into this world with a soul curriculum or soul purpose, and that we step onto a path that leads us to an opportunity to grow and to expand in what we signed up for. You can either, embrace that, or you can refuse it. But I do believe that we have come here with something to learn and something to give or to share. And so often what is happening is, we're looking for what is it that I can get in this world, when the truth is we have come here to give. And so when we can be in that place, this is what I have to share. And as I'm sharing that, what will happen is the soul curriculum, and you can either learn through joy or you can learn through pain. You know, either way, the choice is yours. You know, I could sit in minus 26 below zero thinking this is miserable, or I could sit there thinking, you know what, gosh, how blessed that I've had heat in my life, and I can remember the stories from my dad growing up in the Midwest and walking both ways in that to school in that kind of weather, you know, to and from, and so it's what you do with what comes your way. And you know, there's some people that just walk through this world with joy, and I'm a firm believer that you can have your life that way. So, thanks. Who else? Question? Yes. Oh, you know, the microphone so we can get on the tape. So, yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Do you have a visual image of the afterlife?
Do I have a? Well, I do. Yes. I believe that, or Ernest Holmes, he's the founder of religious science, he talks about it being the continuity of the individual soul. And so it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to come back here, though that we don't disregard the reincarnation as a possibility, because we've heard enough stories that validate, hey, I've been there, I dug up a cup I buried there 1,000 years ago, or kids speaking languages, or just amazing testimonies of people coming back. But the continuity of the individual soul doesn't mean you have to come back here. I believe that without this vibration, the density is not quite as slow. And so the unfoldment of consciousness, I think, allows you to move from here to there in experience or in thought a lot swifter. I believe that when one steps through, that they are able to have their review of the behavior and those kinds of things. But I don't necessarily think you hold on to each experience, though you have access to each experience. I believe that you have as much spirit here as you're going to have anywhere else, because that spirit is infinite, which means as much as I am conscious of the divine presence now is basically where I'm going to be as I continue to move on. So I do my God work and understanding and unification with spirit now, not thinking I'm going to meet my maker later on. I believe that we move with a clan, with those individuals, and that one can step away in their evolution and continue on with or without those. The soulmates, you have many. It's not just one person that you have traveled with, but if you've ever been on a boat traveling across, you've got a lot of mates on that boat. And so I believe that you've done a lot of traveling in your time. But once again, it is your consciousness, and I believe that just as you've been given a vehicle to operate on this plane, that you will be given the appropriate vehicle to operate wherever you choose to be. I think it was Paul said that there's bodies celestial, there's bodies terrestrial. There's an Ernest, or they talk about there's bodies within bodies, and infinity is how Ernest Holmes talks about. So I believe that just as you were greeted here to get going on this dimension of awareness, you will have the appropriate facilitation to get you going wherever you go next. And I do believe that you will step into that realm of support that you will find comfortable, and that. If you're living in torment now, I don't think you're going to step out of here and be free of that torment. It is the continuity of consciousness. And so it is. That means holding a high place as you are going through. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, they really teach individuals to be as conscious as they can here and aware of the presence of God here, and being conscious in the midst of pain and the bad experiences and the challenges. So in that time of transition from this dimension of awareness to the next, that you're able to do it with your eyes open, that you don't go to sleep and then just wake up somewhere else, but that you're able to transition through fully conscious and aware of the glorious passage from one side to the other. And so one of the things we do in our foundation class is that we have an evening of a full conscious conversation around transition and the other dimension, because I don't think it's something you look at the last minute. Oh no, I'm going to die, I better start thinking about it. But rather, as you begin to recognize that it is just as natural as being born, as everyone who comes here gets to leave. I mean, nature has provided for your arrival, and it's going to provide for your exit. It's not going to abandon us on that time. We may fight, and I watch people fight and hold on like crazy because of fear, and that's for me a very sad part of some religions, is they teach this fear and judgment and damnation and all that stuff. And the challenge I have found is that you get what it is you think you're going to get as you cross over, because it's done into you as you believe. So, I've talked to people who have, transitioned, came back, and they've told me about the little blue Krishna they saw. I said, wow, that's something. I've talked to other individuals who said they met the Michelangelo Jesus, with the blonde flowing hair and blue eyes, which, physically upon this planet it would be impossible for a Middle Eastern. But you get... I believe things are facilitated to your level of belief. I've talked to others. I've talked to Einstein. I've talked to others' parents and friends. Here's one. This is a scary part. But one person, they died from a drug overdose, and their remembrance was that they no longer had a body, but they had a physical addiction that they could no longer satiate. And so all of a sudden they had the craving, but no body. And it was like, and they never touched drugs again when they came back. So, it's like, it's just about getting yourself more in alignment with your unification with Spirit. It's about returning back into the whole. It's that drop going back into the ocean. And so part of the irreconcilable differences between the East and the West is that a lot of the Western philosophy teaches that we're going to all become like God, and there'll be billions of little demigods running around kind of thing. And the Eastern philosophy is that the ultimate, because they believe in reincarnation, coming back many times for every virtue, but their belief is that ultimately that drop goes back into the ocean and the individuality merges back into the whole. And so West needs to have a very different perspective of the ultimate kind of thing. And so, yeah, come check out Class Foundation on Tuesday nights. We'll have a deeper. This is just getting me going. I can go all night on that one because it's what I do. So, yeah, back here. This is our youngest questionnaire.
What would you like to say? Oh.
What do you remember?
So my wife is very much interested in raising conscious children. We feel like we're pretty conscious beings, and we feel that they're a blessing, and we knew that they were coming before they got here.
Yes.
So that was kind of a nice...
Going to have a star, too. Watch the microphone.
So, it's important for us to, keep our level of, consciousness up for them. Obviously, we don't believe in the non-aggression. We believe in the non-aggression principle. So, she loves microphones.
Uh-huh.
But that's pretty much my question.
Okay. So, raising conscious children, our planet needs it. We are grateful to you. There's a sense that our children that are coming in are of a higher consciousness and vibration than previous generations, which is probably every parent has said for the last several thousand years. But, whether it's the indigo children or the light children or the kids that come in and know technology from that age on, it's amazing. And so the beauty of that kind of perspective is saying, yeah, absolutely. The next generation is of a higher vibration consciousness. And when you have a child, you really do care about the world and the environment and the planet and conscious consumerism and all these high kind of things. And so the best we can be as parents, I feel, is to live at that higher vibration ourselves and be motivated by being that example for our kids. It is through their witnessing of your response to one of those bad moments that the Spirit is there in the midst of it. It is a matter of them seeing you meditate and inviting them into the meditation and into prayers. It is your willingness to talk story beyond mythology with them and talk about the essence of their being, the life that animates the little body and the big body, and that you're not the body, but you're the consciousness that makes the choice. And to be able to speak that, to find schools. We've got this Montessori school that is not Seasides, but Bobby and her husband Larry are very conscious in raising children of recognizing their self-worth and their self-value and the gifts that they have to bring this world. And just to continue to present the opportunities for our children to see alternative choices than the medias that the news are feeding us, because that is not the reality of the planet. And so not to buy into the fears, but things cycle, and that's the important thing to remember in those downtimes, is that things will cycle from down to up. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I came to a conclusion about it, and it's kind of on the same wavelength as you're at. but I think that a lot of it is kind of like a Jerry Springer show, you
Mhm.
know. Before, like when we used to watch news, it used to be just, straightforward, give you the information, and, now it's just meant to divide us, and, if it's race baiting or if it's all kinds of weird
Right.
stuff that seems to be going on, it seems to be dividing us and not uniting us.
Right,
And,
absolutely.
and I wonder sometimes, is this a overall like agenda that they have to keep us divided and not unite us?
So come to the Tuesday night classes. We go a little bit in that distance. Is it an overall agenda? Well, those who choose to present information are directing a collective consciousness of our nation, and they're very well aware of the direction they want to take us. So what's important to remember is there are alternative media outlets on the internet, and you got false, what's real big these days, the things that are not true. But yes, it is about ratings, and it is about directing people, whether it is this side of the agenda or this side of the agenda. Those are the ones who own the media. And so to just be aware, I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, I want to be careful about that, but what's important for us is to be conscious of how things are being presented and where they are coming from, and there is valuable information there, and can you take the sensationalism out of it? You take a look at, Standing Rock, which is an important situation in our culture this fall, and it took a long time before it ever even made it to the media until the veterans showed up and it became major stuff. But yet, so what you're saying is absolutely true. It is about the ratings, and it is about presenting that, though it is also reporting it. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just important to be aware of how it's coming and that you do have other choices. So, with that, is there one last burning question, or should we move on? Yes, Michael Paul. We got a microphone. Marty is running. Steve is running. Okay, last one. Here we go.
Yeah, thank you, Reverend Christian, for providing this forum for us. Could you just maybe comment on ego as it relates to the physical body and this experience as a human being, the pros and cons of ego, and how we should be aware of those things?
Well, nice part about that with the ego, pros and cons, because there are pros and cons. Ego, edging God out, I think is what they say the acronym is. And so when you edge God out of the situation, say, hey, this is me and this is it, then you're running on your own energy. Though, on the flip side is, you need to have that something to get you out there on stage and to sing and to make a difference and to stand up and to get your social media out there. There's got to be part of you that says, this is what's going to put me in the game. This is what's going to take us to the Super Bowl. And so there is great value to that ego because it gives you the chutzpah to do what it takes to do who you are in this world. Because it's not as if there is there's resistance, but it's not as if there's bad resistance. It's just if something was very simple, then everybody would push through it. But if you have got the gift, you've got to be able to step into it. I love Muhammad Ali. It hit me when I was a kid, and it stuck with me my whole time. Is he had no problem with self-promotion. I am the greatest. And what do we remember him for? For being the greatest. And so that's ego. But the problem is when that takes over to the detriment of the other aspects of your being, when that takes over and you no longer have spirit coming through and with your gifts and your insights, so when that takes over and you think you are the hand, you are the one who's making it and the difference, and you forget that it is Spirit's gifts that are moving through you, that is when I have found that I get humbled real quick. When all of a sudden I think a Christian's got this going on, I'll show up on a Sunday morning and Spirit gives me no words for these mouths, and so I am humbled very fast. And so, but yet we don't want false humility either. That's a bunch of crock. So it's a fine balance, but what is important for me is the detriment is when that ego takes over and it's no longer thinking that it is Spirit is coming from the source. And so it is a fine line. I won't say, so many people have the issue that it is their ego that is in charge of their life. What's valuable is for you to get to that mountaintop and look out and recognize that that ego is an aspect of yourself that is a player, that is moving who you are forward in this physical world where it is necessary to be heard, to be seen, and to express. But what you want to be seen when you express is spirit, and that you become that transparency for the world. So, thank you. All right. Okay. Hey, with that, we got another song from Tiffany Jane. My goodness, she is fabulous. She is local. We also saw her here on a Mother's Day a decade ago with her mom, Lee Scarrett, doing the mother-daughter thing. She was fabulous then. She rocks our town now. And speaking of now, we got her here on our stage right now. Please join me in welcoming Tiffany Jane.
Thank you.
All right.
You're broken down and tired, living life on a merry-go-round. And you can't find the finder that I've seen in you, so we gon' walk it out and move mountains. We gon' walk it out and move mountains. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, high like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. When the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe now, I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet and move mountains. We gon' walk it out and move mountains. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, all we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and for that we have each other now. We will rise, the way will rise. Oh, we will rise. We'll rise up, rise like the day. We'll rise up in spite of the age. We will rise 1,000 times again. We'll rise up, rise like the waves. We'll rise up in spite of the age. We'll rise up, we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, rise up, rise like the day. We'll rise up, in spite of the age. We'll rise up, we'll do it 1,000 times again.
That is Tiffany Jane. Oh my goodness. What a range with that voice you have got. Thank you. Gotta get you back here this year. So, all right.